Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and I'm showing up a little bit late to this one, but in case you haven't heard about it, and also I have a little bit of a different take on this, there's this wonderful company named Insight Esports run by a guy named David, and he currently owes the Magic community at least $63,000, probably a little bit more from what I heard. And it's not necessarily because David is a scammer that he intended to run this as like, what do they call it, a rug pull or a Ponzi scheme. I've heard everything thrown around. Statements from the people who worked closest with him say that he intended for this to be legitimate. He just really sucks at math and business. So that's the takeaway from this. Let me, I guess, give you the gist of the story. So Insight Esports was formed and they wanted to run esports events involving Magic. Now, Wizards has this weird rule where if you want to run like an officially sanctioned tournament, you need a sponsoring store. Honestly, it's probably just, oh, they're in the WPM program, so they already agreed to this, that, and the other thing, and they already have judges. And then if there's like, I don't know, prize support, then we know where to send it. So basically, you always have to have a sponsoring store, and that was Tier 1 Games. And they feel as ripped off as, well, the tournament participants and the rest of the community, really. So I guess they used like a platform for collecting money and for tournament planning or whatever called MTG Melee, and they like aren't really involved in this. Like they were not like, oh yeah, let's rip everybody off. Oh sure, let's keep running tournaments without paying people. They were just the third-party platform that they decided to use to run the tournaments. That simple. Or at the bare minimum, do the signups, I think it was. So they even had sponsors lined up, which, you know, this got pretty big. They had Razer, they had Chipotle, which, I mean, come on. Mad respect for Chipotle sponsoring it. I do quite like Chipotle. Really, honestly, the corporate structure, how they do everything, how they source stuff, I can respect Chipotle and I really like their products. That said, they got dragged into this mostly because of, let me see if I can find this. The Insight Sports and Chipotle present Burrito Brawl, among, I think, a couple others. So they were just a tournament sponsor. So if you're hitting up Chipotle saying, hey, y'all owe me money, I never got, you know, paid prize money for your tournament, well, it wasn't their tournament. So the basic timeline of events, if you believe everybody involved, who they all seem to be on the same page and say this is how it went down. David started Insight Esports, said, I want to do esports stuff. And then he had all these guaranteed prize amounts. So they had like, you know, tournaments like the $1,000 whatever, the $5,000 this and that open, the $1,000 historic thing, the, you know, whatever. And because they advertised it that way and because they wanted big flashy numbers, they guaranteed that as the prize pool or as the top prize or whatever it was. Well, I mean, it really just comes down to, guess what happens if you say it's a $1,000 tournament with a $1,000 prize pool and you get $500 worth of entries. And some of these I think had scaled prizes, it looks like. Because I added up some of the prize pools for just like, oh, it's Wednesday, my dudes, and we're running a tournament. It adds up to a really funny number that's just like $200 or something. So those might have been scaled to the entries. So he may have even tried to fix this. But really when it comes down to, oh, oops, we didn't make enough, that's when you hit pause and say, what can we do about this? Which obviously what they could do about it was pick up a whole bunch of sponsors to help subsidize it. My guess would be spend more money on additional marketing to get more people to enter and just say, oh yeah, every business starts out this way. It's fine. We'll run, you know, into the debt and then we'll use future tournaments or like we'll use next week's tournament to their entry money to pay some of the prize money for the earlier tournaments that we don't have the money for because the tournament didn't make enough money. So some prize amounts went out. I mean, like tens of thousands went out. But it seems to me like it just kind of devolved into, oh, you only get paid if you request to get paid. If you're like, hey, where's my prize money? If you don't mention it, well, then you're not a priority because, like I said, they probably promised like $50,000 in prize money at one point and only collected like 25. It seemed to be 2 to 1 or worse, according to the people who managed the money, which is someone else, believe it or not. Or at least the gross income, because they were taking like 9% as the sponsoring store. Some in the neighborhood. I mean, I'm getting caught up in the math and all that, but what it really comes down to is don't promise more at a tournament in prize money than you're going to get. Unless it's like a promotional loss leader thing, or you're very, very, very confident that you can collect a certain amount. Like if you ran one and then you ran another one and it got 10% bigger, and then it was really hyped and it went really good and you got a ton of coverage, and you think this one's going to be 10% even bigger, well then, you know, take even 50% of what that is and make that the prize pool. Or just say prize pool to be, you know, determined later. It's probably going to be between this and this, and have it be like between $1,000 and $5,000, just some absurd range. I guess they were thinking, well, if we don't say what the exact prizes are, people aren't going to enter because, you know, who knows? Maybe it was like $20 to enter these tournaments. I don't know. And I mean, you guys know how this works. If you raise the price too much, you make it $50 an entry, well, people are going to be like, ah, that's too steep. I ain't dropping $50 on one. And if you make it $5, you ain't going to get to, you know, $5,000. Not unless you have 1,000 people enter, which you're not going to have 1,000 people enter. Not to mention, like I said, like the cost on marketing, the cost to run the MTG Melee, you know, third-party sign-up thing, and the cost to like take credit cards, and the cost to give 9% to the sponsoring store. None of this was factored in. Okay, apparently this guy just had crap for a business plan. And as someone who's started at least 2 businesses, 3 debatably, you have to have a plan. You have to say, how much is this going to cost? How much do we have to make per day to not shut down, to break even? Can we afford to hire people? Can we afford marketing? Or is the entire budget blown on infrastructure and furniture? Like, you've got to do the numbers. You don't just say, it'll work out. I'll just get a loan. And then all of a sudden you're like $100,000 in debt and you're like, oh crap, oops. That's why I opened in like the cheapest place. I even moved once. I mean, my business was pretty solid. It didn't make enough money to live on. And then I was like making so much on YouTube and eBay. I'm just like, why am I even still here? Like a quarter of my money is coming from local stuff and 3/4 is coming from online. If I just closed my business and stopped showing up every day and just worked from my house, I could make probably up the entire 25% I'm missing. So that's what I did. And here we are now. So you have to adapt, you have to do the math, you have to predict, and if something goes wrong, you have to fix it. David did none of these things. So I'll read a statement by him. This was posted in late August of 2021, so very recently. He posted on a twit longer, hello, I just wanted to make a statement to clear a few things up. There has been an incredible amount of misinformation going around about my business and other businesses as well. So I read that and I'm like, oh, here we go. Here comes deflecting, here comes gaslighting, here comes lying. Come on. But not necessarily. This is more just legalese. This is more just like cover your butt kind of stuff. He says, we do not have sponsorships with Chipotle, Razer, Tier 1 Games, and MTG Melee or any other company, which that just is false. I don't understand that. I apologize for any confusion that statements I have said have caused. These businesses are not involved with Inside Esports, yes they are, and are not responsible for any ongoing situation. Now see, there you go. Now see, that's just... my lawyer told me to say this kind of stuff, but it's also like not true. I mean, if you read between the lines, it's stop hitting up Chipotle, Razer, Tier 1 Games, and MTG Melee for your missing prize money. That was on me. I screwed up. So really, this is just cold legalese nonsense, but he does go on to say, it has been brought to my attention that players are angered toward other businesses besides my own. This is not right. And yeah, it isn't. They did not know that he was running this into the ground. The closest you could get is a little bit of, hey, the numbers don't add up. What's going on over there? We're getting some complaints from Tier 1 Games. And that was very late into the process. But yeah, all the lack of planning, all the guaranteed prizes, that was on him. So him saying, like, don't harass these companies, yeah, but saying they weren't involved and they didn't have sponsorships and had like no business dealings with them, that is just utterly false. So once again, he goes on to say, everything that has transpired is the responsibility of myself and Inside Esports alone. I take full responsibility for the obligations we have. Obviously he means monetary obligations, and legally contractual, whatever. Every player that is currently owed is being paid by me. That's once again also not true, and not anyone else. Well, the whole problem is that they're not being paid because you don't have the money because you didn't make enough money, but okay, sure. Please do not harass, threaten, bully, or attempt to hold any other business responsible for actions that they are not involved with. I alone am making sure all of our obligations are fulfilled. Now see, that's the key takeaways. Stop going to MTG Melee and saying, what's going on? You guys owe me prize money. No, they're just the third-party platform. They just took the signups. There's not much they can do. Same with Tier 1. They're just the sponsoring store. I mean, yeah, their name's on it, but like, so, you know, I don't know how that works legally, but like, this guy is at least morally responsible for what happened. And he's coming out saying, hey, stop harassing other people. I'm going to do my best to try and make this good. So then it just simply ends with, I apologize for to everyone for confusion and anger over this whole situation, or that this whole situation has caused, pardon me. I sincerely hope one day you all can forgive me for causing this mess. David, I'm going to leave his last name out just in case he wants to escape this at some point, Inside Esports. So none of this, oh, I screwed up. It was just, hey, stop going after other people. So he felt obligated to post that, and that's really all we've heard from him that I know of. I mean, unless there's another statement. Hell, you want to come on for an interview? I don't care. I'll be a neutral party. I mean, yeah, businesses fail, people make mistakes. I ain't going to be a dick about it. If it was a willful scam, oh, like if you planned this the whole time to run off with people's money, then we'd have a problem. But to the best of my knowledge and from all the witnesses, that is not what happened. And I want to stress that. So the number one source for what happened here is from the owner of Tier 1 Games. And I saved this for last on purpose. So he says, "Hi, my name is Damian. I am the owner / operator of Tier 1 Games. I've been in this industry for over 25 years, either through business, judging, or competing. I love this game and the community. I've worked hard to build my brand and what I stand for. I do not condone what David, aka Inside Esports, did, how he handled it, or the fact that he lied or withheld information from myself and you, the players." They probably thought, oh, he's going to throw this guy under the bus hard because he's been getting a bunch of stress and, harassment threats and stuff over missing prize money. Nah, he's taking the high path. I mean, good guy Damian. For the last 2 months since I learned of the back pays owed to the players, I've tried to stay in open communications with David to know the progress of the monies he owes to the players. In this time, I've been told one thing or another, but never given any proof other than his word that progress is being made. David told me that he was in talks with some of the players about working out payment plans. One of those players being Sandy Dog MTG. I guess he was one of the louder people involved in this. I looked at the tournament verified paid versus verified not paid, and he's in a lot of them. He ranked high in a lot of these tournaments. So, yeah, if it was me, I'd be pretty pissed. And I can't even imagine how many chargebacks MTG Melee got hit by. If they were even the ones collecting the money, I'm not too sure, but I think Damian's gonna clear that up too, if I recall. So he continues, I recently reached out to Sandy Dog MTG to confirm if David had actually been in talks about paying out the prizes owed. Sandy Dog confirmed to me that a conversation had not taken place. Unbelievable. I asked David for his lawyer's information so that my lawyer could confirm a couple things before I decided to make this statement, but David refused to share that information. I don't think David has legal fund money at this point. I no longer believe that David is working to rectify his mistakes and shortcomings in the prize support owed. That's another huge takeaway. Our involvement with Inside Esports was as the sanctioning store, something that they needed that was required by Wizards of the Coast. When David approached me about wanting to run online events, it sounded like a great idea since in-store events were not allowed in a lot of states. This would give players the ability to play in competitive style events, obviously online without having to show up in person. I added that just for clarity. I decided to help David because he had worked for me a few years back, and I considered him a friend, so I wanted to give him an opportunity to grow a business. Okay, big lesson here. No matter how long you've known them, I don't care if you've known them since like middle school or you grew up next to them or they're your own dang family member, ask for a business plan, ask for the numbers, ask for like how many people is it going to take to get to, $1,000 prize money? Okay, you're charging 20 and the margins are this, the expenses are this, and you have a flat amount of this. Okay, so you have to sell like 70 tickets. What are you going to do if you sell less than 70 tickets? And if they don't have an answer, they're like, I don't know, wait for a more successful tournament. That's not good enough, and refuse to work with them unless they have a giant pool of money. It's just that simple. It's not about trusting them. It's about, are they a competent enough, mathematician and businessman to get it done properly? Because you don't want it ruining a friendship or a family or any of that stuff. Unfortunately, one of my old business partners, because he's an idiot and I never should have worked with him, we are not on speaking terms and I have not talked to him in at least 3 to 4 years. Some of you who have been watching very carefully on my channel know who it is too. He still owes me like $2,000 to $3,000, which is an enormous amount of money to somebody who makes less than 30 grand a year, aka me. Never should have lent it to him, always should have known he wouldn't come through, always should have known he'd continue to get fired from jobs and screw up eBay orders and just be an absolute moron. But it was kind of like, oh, if you're in for an inch, you're in for a foot, or whatever the stupid saying is. Like, oh, if I don't give him more money to help, his 50% of the small business that we were doing together, kind of informally, well, then he's going to lose a department and then he can't ship out eBay items. He's going to lose his inventory and this and that, or he's going to, he's got to fix his car. He can't go to work. And then if he goes to work, he'll pay me right back with the next paycheck, that kind of dumb shit. I should have just told him to go to hell, which I eventually did. But yeah, one of the absolute worst situations of like the last 20 years of my life. So doesn't matter how long you've known them, get the business plan, get the math, and if you see red flags, run. So it sounded good. He wanted to help the players, and the initial math looked fine. So, he says Tier 1 games received 5%. I kept saying 9%. I could have sworn it was. Well, okay, 5% of the funds collected as per our contract for being the sanctioning store. So he just took a 5% cut, put his name on it, and said, all right, hands off, you do you. But it's not quite that simple. So he says Tier 1 games receive 5% of the funds collected as per our contract for being the sanctioning store. This came out to $2,363.34. Hey, look, somebody knows how to do accounting and track business stuff. Shocking. It's almost like he runs a store or something. We also agreed that I would set up the account that collected the funds, and once a week I would send all monies received from the prior week minus the 5% to David at Inside Esports for prize fund disbursement. And I would assume also marketing expenses and, business permits and whatever else you need. This is the same percentage I believe Melee also received for being the platform for the event. So another 5% take from MTG Melee. So David's getting 90%. That's a pretty good margin. Now this is where it gets wild. Since our involvement, we have collected a total of $49,822.26 from entries. So that's the gross income it would be referred to as. This was the total collected after processing fees minus our 5%, a total of which was $47,458.92. So that's the amount, 47.5 grand roughly, was sent to Inside Esports for prize disbursement. So this is the total amount that was collected minus about another $2,300 to $2,500. I'm guessing that was MTG Melee's percentage for being the platform for which these events could be run through. So approximately $45,000 should have been dispersed by Inside Esports from funds collected to the players in prize support. So what happened to that money, right? Like, did he just spend it on, his own personal expenses? That's usually how this goes. No, it's really quite simple. So you got that 45 grand number in your head, right? All events that ran total had a prize pool of $108,775. So forget about computers, internet, rent, business licenses, LLC filing, legal, professionals, all this other expenses that, could be written off by Inside Esports. Forget all that. He got $45,000 and promised $108,000 in prizes. There's your problem right there. So to reiterate, he says, Inside Esports promised $108,775, but could only support about $45,000 in entries collected. I believe the problem here is not that Inside Esports stole or is running a Ponzi scheme or pyramid scheme or anything like that, like some people suggested. The issue is that he made guarantees on prize support and could not fulfill those obligations. That's the key takeaway right there, everybody. He even goes on to say, prize support was greater than the funds collected for these events, which caused many shortcomings, thus put Inside Esports further and further behind on payouts. In the end, I believe David's original intentions were good and that he set out to do something great, but did not have the proper financial backing to cover his shortcomings from events he ran. So either a loan, a giant bank account full of money, or lined up sponsors to cover the difference. He made a costly learning experience. Yeah, that's one way to put it. I'd like to believe he's still working on finding a solution, but I honestly don't know. Because remember, as he said earlier, communication is just like gone. I can't speak for anyone other than myself, but I do hope he keeps open communication with the players that are owed and works to rectify this costly learning experience sooner than later. These last 2 months have put a lot of stress on myself and my family. I know a lot of people are angry and hurt by what Inside Esports did. Please do not judge who I am and what I stand for based on the mistakes of David and Inside Esports' failures. I'm a big believer in building communities, which is why I agreed to be the sanctioning store. In the end, I gave too much faith into someone who I thought was honest about what he was doing and how things were going. If he owes you money, stay in contact with him and don't give up. Thank you. I disagree with that last point. One, it sounds impossible to stay in contact with him. It sounds like he's virtually in hiding. And two, if it's an LLC, you ain't getting your money anyway. That would be the limited liability part, and they have like 0 assets. Now, if David was stupid enough to make personal draws from it and kind of intermingle personal funds with business funds, didn't have separate bank accounts, oh my God, would the bankruptcy attorneys rip him apart. They would seize his car, his house, everything. That would violate the LL part of LLC. But if he kept it real tidy and separate and didn't mix money between them and really actually made it like its own business entity, the most you can get is like anybody with a claim in the class, as it would be, gets a split of any assets, which would be a bank account that's probably empty at this point. So you would just get nothing and have, I don't know how you'd even pay the lawyers. So it's like, what's the point? But he's got this hanging over his head and he's not allowed to dissolve an LLC until all liabilities are settled, as they say. So he can't just make it poof disappear unless his LLC files for bankruptcy, which is actually fairly expensive. So that's probably what he's going to use the rest of the funds for, if any of it is still there. But if he decided, you know what, I'm going to draw 100% of the remaining money out. Let's say there's 10 grand left in the bank account, and he withdrew all 10 and said, I'm just going to pretend this doesn't exist and hope people stop bothering me about it, and then spend it all on personal shit as like wages and stuff or whatever. That's, I think, also frowned upon when it comes to LLC law. That's when they could start going after your personal assets, because that's like, if you know you're in trouble and then you fail to, like, what is it, disperse or dispense of the assets in the business in a proper manner, well, then you're in deep, deep, deep shit. So that's just a little preview of, what could come in the future here, but you ain't getting paid, $10 of your prize money unless David wins the lottery. I mean, he can't make money come out of thin air. And now that this is all, caught up and his name's been dragged through the mud, he can't run another tournament and say, I don't know, it's $100 worth of prizes guaranteed, and then take in 1,000 and use the 900 profit to pay past people, because nobody trusts him. So there is no way out. And I mean, honestly, if you won one of these tournaments, you are just simply not getting paid. What he should do to get everybody off of his ass, the government and FBI and criminal probes and IRS included, would be to say, here's a current snapshot of all of our total valuation. Here's all of our money, assets, everything, computers that were bought for the business, or any, who knows, furniture, and probably nothing. It's probably run from home. But here's what we got. We got 20K, 10K, 5K, whatever. Here's everybody that are owed money, so we're gonna split it up, because that's literally what the court would do anyway. So to say, okay, I owe this person 500, this person 400, this person 300, so I'm gonna pay you all 37%, because that's down to the last penny what we could afford, and then I'm disposing of the LLC. If you want something better, too bad the assets aren't there. We promised more than we could have, and this is the best we're gonna do. I mean, that's what he should do, is come out and say that, and actually do that. Otherwise, quite honestly, it's going to be legal hell for about 3 years and he's going to jail. So, well, depending upon how he handled the funds. Let's put it that way. If it did all go to prize support, which it sounds like it didn't, I don't think there was one single tournament where everybody got paid, just saying, and then he just hit zero and there are no more assets, well, then it is what it is. I mean, it's like you can't sue him for fraud, necessarily. There are kind of outs for this, but this wouldn't be the biggest target of the FBI because it wasn't willful. Oh, also, I have no idea where he lives, as in, like, what country. But it's like, you would sue the LLC. Well, the LLC doesn't have money. Don't sue somebody who doesn't have any money, or an entity that has no assets, because you'll get nothing. You'll get a giant lawyer's bill. That's what you get. You'd be digging yourself in deeper. There's no reason. So it's just, yeah, it's a terrible situation. It's awful. He massively screwed up, and now he's so crushed by the situation, apparently, that he's like in hiding or whatever, and is not talking to anybody, and is no longer working to rectify the situation or pay anyone, I guess. All he could do was make a statement saying, hey, don't harass anybody but me. They weren't really involved. All the liabilities are mine, and then, like, that's it. And then the last line, if you forget, was he hopes you can forgive him for causing this mess. Yeah, that apology is, I think, the last thing you're getting from him. So, yeah, it sucks. I kind of feel bad for him, but he put himself in this situation, and it is what it is. I would definitely outline that this does not reflect poorly on MTG Melee. They did not know that this was an issue. I mean, if I were them, I would say, hey, we're handling the prize payouts too. So if you take in, X amount, we're going to hold that, or we're going to bare minimum hold the amount that is the prizes, and then we'll pay out the prizes, because I think they're the ones who took the money for the signups for the tournaments. So if they want to save their reputation, they should reserve the money in, like, I guess an escrow account, or just some kind of contractual, like, hold, So there is some improvements they could make there, but I guess they probably have worked with such big people, or such a new company, or such a small company, that they're just like, oh, it's never been a problem in the past, but then this jackass, So I wouldn't just say, oh, I'm boycotting MTG Melee, it's all their fault. Well, no, not really. It's like a couple % their fault at best. I mean, if you want to say, oh, like, I'm blaming Tier 1 games because they shouldn't have trusted Inside Esports. Okay, that's kind of a dumb way to think of it. I mean, like I said, he should have requested a business plan. He should have required proof of assets, or, some kind of, I don't know, secured sponsors ahead of time, just anything. Just made sure the money was there. It's that simple. But, I mean, really, this is just a teaching moment for anybody who's going to do something similar, or set up any kind of business, do anything similar to this, do even one tournament, let alone, I think there was about 111 of them. Oh, yeah, they were hustling. They got this going. And if you're starting to dig yourself in a hole because you did screw up or something didn't go as planned or some of the math didn't add up or somebody pulled out or just whatever, hit pause and try to be super honest with everybody. Just be like, hey, we're running low on funds. I'm, trying to rectify it. And don't continue to dig yourself in deeper, hoping that, oh, well, maybe the future tournaments will get people entering. Because it was less and less and less people as people got word that, hey, I'm not getting any of the payouts for the former tournaments. And people are like, well, I'm not going to enter a new one then. And then he made even less money. That's when you just be an adult and you come out and you say what happened. Jeez. So just terrible all-around situation. It's awful if any of you watching this got wrapped up in it, but that's just the state of things right now. So I guess, the last thing I could say is if you're going to enter a tournament, look up the people's, reputations. And if you've never heard of them, maybe stay away. Don't trust them. Maybe only enter one tournament and see how it goes or, be very leery because, Wizards of the Coast basically rug pulled Channel Fireball when it comes to any kind of funding, prize support, the trophies, the camera gear. They just out of nowhere, literally the events were already going on and they're like, where's the trophies and the camera gear? And they're like, oh yeah, we're cutting you off, but we didn't tell you ahead of time. I would be so into WTF territory at that point. I am not surprised Channel Fireball said, you know what, we're dissolving Channel Fireball events and we're never doing another tournament ever again. I don't blame them one bit after what Wizards did to them. What a bunch of assholes. It's not like Wizards doesn't have the money. They had a record year in the middle of COVID. You gotta be kidding me. So if there's anyone to really be thrown under the bus in this situation, it's Wizards of the Coast because they did way, way, way worse than David did to a way, way, way bigger company. And now, as we all know, there's basically no formal in-person tournaments unless they're run by a third party. So be leery of those too. Because with all the vendors and the $5,000 booth rental for the weekend fee and stuff, Channel Fireball announced they still weren't making money on these damn events. That's why they had to shrink prize pools and they were losing money on a couple, gaining money on a couple. They're just like, this isn't even financially worthwhile. And then Wizards pulled out on them and they're just like, fine, F the whole thing. So sometimes really you just can't trust anyone. Well, anyway, that's this whole story. I wanted to cover it in its entirety just to let you guys know what's going on, and even if you've never heard about it, well, now you heard about it, and let it be a teaching lesson for everybody. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.